After the first publication of the Compleat Angler in 1653, Izaak Walton spent the remaining 30 years of his life in Hampshire, where he died at the age of 90. Today he is buried in Winchester Cathedral. The people had somehow forgotten about him, so they were using the chapel where his gravestone lies as a broom closet. Can you imagine? Over Walton's very grave. The chapel has since been restored. This modest place reflects Walton's simplicity. Says Piscator to Venator, "As for my simplicity, if you mean such simple men that lived in those times when there were fewer lawyers, I say, sir, it is these men that are simply contented and find happiness in a drop of dew. Because they're thankful for what they have, and are not concerned with always getting, catching, and corrupting." In his 90 years, Walton had become familiar with personal tragedy. Besides living through a bloody civil war, he had outlived 2 wives and several children. Disillusioned with his country and times, he found that there are very few things that we ever indeed have. A friend, a lover, or a relative are all mortal. Walton found solace in angling, a safe way in which we can experience failure and learn from it without being irreparably damaged when we lose a fish. In particular, a 4-pound brown trout I might have landed, had I not left the net in the car. On my final day in England, I fed the fish bread on the River Test. The trout had become town pets, and I knew I could fish this river, but I had little desire to cast to them. I felt utterly complacent, and was, in Walton's words, sick of being well. I had a yearning to somehow return to the primitive, to cast a thread and bent safety pin with some bait, preferably worm, in the pond across from my home in Easton, Connecticut.
Clouds go by, I don't want to wait, 'cause I've had an old man's dream, an old man's dream.
This is a fishing world where there are no rules, no dry fly codes. It bothers me when modern-day anglers are critical of Izaak Walton's book because they somehow view his techniques for catching fish as obsolete or immoral. Because he sometimes caught trout with bait. Heaven forbid. Don't you see? The book's not about fishing. It's about life. Or rather, it is about fishing, but fishing is life. Izaak Walton was a self-educated man, a tailor by trade who transcended class structure, befriended intellectuals, and was embraced as a writer of some renown. His little fishing book, filled with recipes, poems, music scores, etchings, and general musings from the heart of a pastoral fantasy, is one of the first works to equate the angling experience with the spiritual. He understood that the immortal quality of rivers held some secret answer to man's plight. How many rivers had he stood over and fished, and how many of his aging faces throughout his charmed and turbulent life stared back at him? Perhaps he understood that the person he saw reflected in the water was not himself, but an ideal, a lifestyle we all envy, and none of us ever really achieve.